And that's okay. People have been drifting in and out, and I figured I'd just wait right here. This is Lily. I'm sitting in a chair that I don't sit in too often, and she actually likes to sit in this chair, and she is kind of wanting me to pet her, and Rosie's looking and being jealous. I don't know why Rosie doesn't just jump up, but that's the way it is. I have to remember to turn the volume off on something. I think it's this one. Yep. Oh, stop. So how many people are here? I have two different, hi Stephen. The phone that is right there, that is I'm using as a camera, is saying that there's 14 people. And, oh, there's 14 now on this one too. And then I've got my iPad here, which is showing me the chat because there's a delay. And then that's where I see the questions. Although I can kind of see them there too. I'm doing pretty good today. It's going to be a nice day, good weather. The wind should be mellow. I'll get some work done out in the yard, help winterize the place. Hello, Paul. And Daniel. Hello, Daniel. Good to see you here. I don't know if this dog's going to make me pet her for the whole time. I might have to get up and get them some chew bones or something. I don't know. Because I really don't feel like having a dog on my chest the whole time. Can you hear me? Everyone hear me all right? Yes, look at you. Thanks, Paul. Yeah. Hi, John. Folks checking in. What time is it in Northern Ireland? All right, we're not answering questions yet. No, it's still early. What time are we supposed to get start? Let's see. We got 5 minutes. I'm off duty right now. I'm just saying hello to everybody, welcoming everybody in. And then I will start looking through the questions and answering the questions, and I'll do the best I can based on what I know offhand. If I've got a video that explains it, I'll tell you the video. I would love for you to go watch the videos. There's over 100 now on my channel. Some of them are just me flying around lately in a lot of bad weather. All the recent videos have been me dealing with weather. And then going back, there's some videos that explain how helicopters fly. There's a live stream about the cost of flying or owning, or both actually. There's lots of cherry drying. And you're gonna have to get down. I know, let me go get you guys some chew bones. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, come on, let's get some chew bones. No, we're not going out. You're not going out. All these chew bones. There you go. Don't fight with her, there's two of them. Okay, hopefully, that'll keep them busy for an hour. I will be going for an hour, and I might even set an alarm, although I could see my kitchen clock pretty good from here. I don't want to get started before the start time, because some folks who tune in exactly at the start time might get kind of ticked off if they miss stuff. Of course, all the live streams, you can watch them after they're done. They get saved by YouTube and they appear on the channel. You might have to go to a special playlist to find them, but they're all there. So if you do miss some stuff in this one, you know, the beginning stuff or whatever, or if you have to leave, and you know, you could always watch it there. So I don't want to answer any questions yet. I shouldn't have started, but I did. How many people, this is a show of hands, except you can't really show me your hands, but you can tell me on the chat here. How many of you have watched Nick Zentner's live stream videos? Because I understand he's doing one exactly the same time as me today. But Nick does them like 5 times a week, and I do them like once every couple of months. So I hope I got a little bit of Nick's viewers here. If you have, just let me know. Do you watch, there's Tony. Yep, Tony watches that. I have watched Nick's videos. I was watching when he was live streaming from his backyard earlier in the summer, and it was like a geology overload for me, so I stopped watching them live. He's very enthusiastic though, isn't it kind of cool? If you don't know who I'm talking about Nick Zentner, Nick on the Rocks. I did a series of videos with him. We did 2 flights. One of them, the camera equipment crapped out about the middle of the flight. So we did a second one, and it's a total of 7 videos. I cut those 2 flights into 7 videos with me and Nick flying in my helicopter, and cameras looking out in the front, looking at Nick while he's waving his hands around and getting excited. He talks about the geology of this area. People have asked me to do more of them with Nick. I'll be frank with you, the reason I don't do more of those videos is that they cost a lot of money to do. That I don't get paid for that flight time, and it's very expensive to fly the helicopter. And the other reason is that they generally don't get much of an audience compared to some of my other videos that I've done. So I would rather do the other videos because they get a better audience. And my channel is monetized. I do get some money, and I'll be talking a little bit about that in a moment. But it's not the kind of money that I need to start, just flying around on stuff that people aren't going to watch. So that's the deal with that. Let's see. I think I've got, 9 a.m. exactly. So, okay, we're starting. Official start. Okay, my name is Maria Langer, and I'm the owner-operator of Flying M Air, which is an actual helicopter charter company. And that company owns an R-44 Raven 2 helicopter. It's a blue one. I had a different one years past, and in future videos I'll probably talk a little bit more about that one. Some of the videos on my channel were shot from that helicopter. But I've got a blue one now. It's a 2005. It's getting ready to go into overhaul. However, I put it away for the season, and I have every intention, mostly, long story there, but I plan on flying it for cherry season, one more season out of it before it goes into overhaul. And that can change, but that's the way it is right now. I'm definitely not putting it into overhaul this year. If you watched my live stream about helicopter operating costs, you may have remembered that my overhaul will cost about $250,000, which is money that I don't have sitting around. And yes, I have to take out a loan, and I can take out a loan, but I much rather take out that loan when this COVID thing has died down, and I have a better chance of being able to get business to pay for that loan. So that's why the helicopter's been put away. Now it's kind of sleeping. Okay, I am going to, I'm going to go through, and this is what I'm going to do, and you might not think it's a good idea, but I'm looking at all the posts, timestamped 9 a.m. or later, and I will start answering questions from that. And Tony P, it says, welcome to sponsor. I don't know why it said that, but let me start off. Before I answer questions, I have some notes here. First of all, this channel, it has subscribers, 66,000 and counting. That's great. I was hoping to get to 75,000 by the end of this year. You folks can help if you're not a subscriber now. Click that subscribe button. Just become a subscriber. It doesn't cost you anything, and you get to find out about my new videos. They'll come on your channel subscriber list. If you turn on notifications, you'll find out about them as soon as they come out. And tell your friends. So I really would love to get my subscriber count up to 75,000 by the end of the year. So that's the first thing. The second thing is this channel also has members and patrons. Members are YouTube channel members who basically it's the step beyond subscribers, where you contribute money to the channel to help me cover the costs of flying the helicopter, buying the cameras, sitting in front of a computer to edit the video, getting the camera mounts, things like that. And my subscribers and Patreon, I also have Patreon patrons, which are on the same idea, except instead of them giving money to YouTube, they give money to Patreon, and the money, a portion of that money comes to me to help support my channel. If you're not familiar with this channel membership, watch the channel membership video. I'll try to remember to put a link to it in the description for this. You can, it explains how it works. And what I want to do is I want to give a huge call out to the folks that are on the sponsor level, which is the highest level of members. And this, some of you folks are here, I know. I got Barry G41, Soladar, Rebecca Allen, Reed Booth, and Jason B. These folks have all been channel members since I started channel membership in August of last year. That's 14 months. And I got to really, really thank you folks for that. Again, these folks are at the sponsor level. Then I've got Daniel Loans. I hope I'm saying that right, because Daniel's here. And if I'm not, I'll probably hear from it. But Daniel's here. Daniel and Dirt Dog B17, they've been for 13 months. I've got Roy Eves. Hi, Roy, if you're here. Roy has been here for 10 months, but Roy's also like a huge a supporter of my my other gig, which is making jewelry. And Roy buys lots of jewelry for his family. Luckily, he has lots of women in his life, and I make jewelry, and he buys it for his women. So thank you, Roy. Then I've got Richard McConkey for 9 months, Gene Tallman for 6 months, Friday Frank R for 3 months, and Michael Rowe for 2 months. And then on Patreon, I've got Stephen Kimbrough, Ralph Woodard, I don't know where David came from, and Sunny Sue, Sioux like the Indian tribe is the way that's spelled. And they've been on for 8 months or less, but that's because Patreon started a little bit later than the YouTube channel membership. So again, channel membership is not the same as being a subscriber. The members I've got between Patreon and YouTube membership is there's about 80 folks, and I really want to thank them. When you watch my videos at a certain portion, when I'm not talking and the scenery is kind of not super interesting, you'll see that screen come up with a list of all the members and Patreon patrons. And those are the folks I'm thanking in every single video. So thank you, folks. Okay, and then I want to also mention, some folks have asked me, why don't I have a higher level of membership? And I probably will institute that shortly for folks who want to give more, which you know, if you do, that's great. I love it. It really helps me a lot. If you don't, that's fine too. You know, you could support me even by just telling your friends about my channel. That's also really helpful. The situation is I'm going south for the winter. I've already got my house sitter set up. I've got all kinds of things going on, packing, and I'm not bringing the helicopter with me. Like I said, it's sleeping. So I have made arrangements to go flying down in Arizona. I'll be renting an R44 from some friends of mine that run a flight school that is slowly winding up its operations. And they've got an R44 that they lease that they will rent for me. It's going to cost me $5.50 an hour. That's $550 an hour, not $5.50 an hour. And I will be able to mount my cameras on that and take you to see some of the places that I know in Arizona, you know, up the Salt River, up to Sedona, and places like that. So in order to help me be able to afford that, I probably will be instituting a higher membership level for folks who have the extra money and want to give. That I really appreciate that. Also want to mention that if you are in Arizona and you would like to be a flight sponsor, there are some FAA regulations regarding how I can split the costs for flights more than 25 miles. Like a trip up to Sedona, for example, it has to be a 50-50 split, which is fine for me. But if you'd like to fly with me from Phoenix area to Sedona, or boy, if you have really deep pockets, because it's a long flight, 2 hours each way, go up to Page, Lake Powell. That's a really interesting flight over the reservation, whatever. Get in touch with me on the channel. I'll probably put opportunities as they arise in the community center, the community tab which you can access on the YouTube channel page. The other things I want to mention before I start answering questions is upcoming videos. The video that came out this morning is really, really long. That video is from the third and final part of my trip from McMinnville to Yakima. And in this particular flight, the bad weather, the low weather, the bad visibility has ended, but the turbulence has begun. And I fly for 45 minutes, which is a lot longer than that flight should have taken, from the Columbia River up a valley. I can't remember the name of the river in that valley, all the way up to Yakima. That flight probably should have been a 30-minute flight. It was really long because I had headwinds. I had to slow down because of the turbulence. I'm bouncing all over the place. And it was just not a very pleasant flight for me. And instead of breaking it in two, so you watch two videos of me flying in turbulence, I just let it go the whole long flight. One of the things I did do that makes it, I think, a little more interesting, and I hope to do it more often, is my flights are tracked on Flight Radar 24. I have a gold membership for Flight Radar, and I'm able to see flights from a long time ago, and I'm able to get screen captures of that to show where I am on each portion of the flight. So in that particular video, I put some of those maps in there, and if you like it, let me know. Let me know in the comments for the video, because it's something, it's not easy to do, not fun to do, but it's not too bad to do. And I can hopefully add it in other videos so you know where I am in the flight. Also, I can't recommend Flight Radar. If you're into aviation, if you want to follow flight pilots, you know, maybe you follow several pilots on YouTube. Maybe you just want to track airliners, whatever. I highly recommend Flight Radar 24. Right now I have 2 dogs in my lap, and I really wish that I didn't, but I do. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Okay, the upcoming videos next week, because this week's was so long, next week's going to be super, super short, and you'll see that. And then I've got a whole bunch of footage from a flight that I made with a friend to Twisp, Washington. The cameras were not all behaving as usual. The rear-facing camera, which captures my engine sound, and a view of me, which who cares, but it does that. Of course, it crapped out, of course. But I think I've got enough to be able to make videos with cockpit point of view between me and my friend Cindy for part of that trip, and the engine sounds and us talking maybe. Hopefully we didn't say anything too embarrassing. I can always cut something out if we did. And it was a really pretty flight going all the way up to Twisp and back. And I also flew a little bit around the let's see, what was the name of that? Oh, Winthrop, the Winthrop area. We took one of Cindy's friends for a quick ride up there. So that'll be a lot of footage. So that'll probably be the videos that you'll watch in the upcoming weeks. I've got a 360-degree video that I shot with a tail cam. It's really funky video. I like it, but I've got some issues with it, and until I can iron out those issues, I'm not going to put it online. But hopefully I can iron out those issues soon. Okay, so that's all my notes. Now I'm going to go back through the comments starting at 9 o'clock and start answering questions. So, okay, so I don't want to wear my glasses. Tony P asks, you have some great videos, but wondering your story, where you're from, why'd you choose helicopters, what brought you to Washington? Oh boy, that's a lot of information. I am originally from the New York metro area, which you might hear in my accent. I took my first helicopter ride when I was about 6 or 7 years old with my dad in Maine. It was a helicopter on the side of the road with a sign that said, rides $5. I'm not young, so that's what it was back in those days. My dad said, who wants to go for a ride? I did, so he and I went. My sister and my mother stayed behind, and I still remember that flight. I think it was a Bell 47, just judging from the bubble that I remember, not too well, but I remember it a little bit. And all my life I said, wow, if I ever learn to fly, I'm going to learn how to fly helicopters because they're really cool. And then fast forward to my 30s, I was writing for a living. I wrote computer books for a living, and I had did pretty well. And I had lots of time and money, and I learned to fly helicopters, and then I got kind of addicted to it. I bought a helicopter, later bought a bigger helicopter, and that's basically my backstory. I actually am working on a memoir that talks about my whole backstory and all the flights that I've done and a lot of other stuff, and I have a lot of pictures. And I need you folks to nag me to get that done. I'm thinking of doing a Kickstarter or something like that, something that will motivate me to get it done. You know, when I was a writer for a living, I was paid they call them milestones. So you get a book contract and they give you some money, and then they say, okay, when you finish half the book, we'll give you some more. When you finish the whole book, we'll give you the rest of it. And that's what dragged me through the writing process, is that I had basically a payday attached to completion. And this particular book I will probably self-publish because I don't really feel like dealing with editors anymore. And I lack that motivation because there's nobody waiting for me to give them text so that they could pay me. So I think I might have to do a Kickstarter to make that happen. And what brought me to Washington was cherry drying. I started doing cherry drying in 2008. I was living in Arizona. I came up here every summer to escape the heat, make some money. And when I got divorced in 2012, it all started. I realized, I didn't want to live in Arizona full-time anyway, so I figured, well, let's just move to Washington. And that's here. So I hope that answers their questions. Tony. David asks, what is the ceiling altitude you can fly to? The helicopter supposedly could fly to, I'm thinking it's 12,000 feet, but I can tell you, let's see, I've been up to 9,600 feet. This is above sea level, these numbers. And the helicopter starts to really vibrate around there. So I cannot imagine how it would be shaken at 12,000. And that's got to do with density, altitude, and the fact that the air is thinner at higher elevations. And when I'm flying over the ground, I try to stay usually between 500 and 1,000 feet. I usually stay below 1,000 feet because the airplanes are above 1,000 feet. So 500 to 700 is a good safe altitude. Let's see. Ahmed says, I'm an elder. Well, come on to Washington, but I can't teach. I don't teach. Anybody who wants me to teach them how to fly helicopters, you are out of luck. I'm not a flight instructor. Okay, Tony P. Yeah, you need to check on that. I had all sorts of credit card issues this week. Tony P. says he's got credit card issues with that, and this week I had a doozy. Let's see. Okay, what is the route for becoming it looks like Love Ballon says, what is the route for becoming a helicopter pilot with the air ambulance in England? I have no idea what the story is in England, but I can tell you that here, you need to learn how to fly helicopters. You need to build, at least 500 hours, probably 1,000 hours in helicopters. You'll probably need an instrument rating in helicopters. Normally, folks build their time by becoming flight instructors. So you'd want to probably become a CFII. Again, this is US terms. I really don't know what it is in the UK, but I imagine it's probably very similar. Let's see. I hope that answers a little bit. I don't know. John says, I watched your McMinnville to Yakima Part 3 video, and as usual, found it very interesting. Thank you. You did, really? Just wondered, though, why you ended so abruptly and did a stopover. You can't tell so much from the video, but I was getting the crap shaken out of me in the air. I was just getting bounced all over the place. I was feeling kind of ill. And then there was a wind advisory. You probably heard me talk about that, the weather advisory, which was for wind. I tried to get through the phone to talk to, but to listen to the weather at Wenatchee, which is close to where I live. And I was not able to get through. And I figured, okay, I'll land here. I'll call them on the phone. I'll see what's going on. And what happened was that the wind was crazy there. And I just did not feel like another hour and a half of bouncing through the sky. So I landed, I rented a car, I drove home. It was that's about a 2-hour drive, I think. Wound up staying home with a rental car for a couple of days. and then drove it back and picked up the helicopter the following Wednesday. And those videos, by the way, are already online. The ones that are, there's one up the Yakima River Canyon. That was the first segment of the flight. And then there's, let's see, what was it, Kittitas to Malaga, which is the other one. And they're all online. Let's see. Let's see, I'm trying to find questions here. A lot of people making comments here. Jack Connors wants to know the names of my books. Jack, I wrote 85 books. Do you really want me to recite the names of them? The books I wrote were books about how to use computers, and I started doing this in 1991, which was the first book I co-authored with another author, which is why it was co-authored. That was a silly thing to say. Okay, I co-authored. And I did, after that I started writing books solo. I co-authored like, I think one or two more books. And then just writing books about how to use computers. I wrote about Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel. I think I wrote the most titles about Microsoft Excel for Mac and also for Windows. I wrote some Mac OS books. I wrote the original official guide to Quicken. My two bestsellers were The Official Guide to Quicken, which was around 1998 or 99, and also Mac OS, my first Mac OS book, I think it was Mac OS 8, and that was around the same time. And those two books coming out right around the same time and selling really well is what gave me the money that I needed to start learning how to fly helicopters and eventually to buy a helicopter. Not enough money to buy a helicopter for cash, but to make it affordable, you know, make a relatively small loan. So yeah, the last book I wrote, I think, was in 2012. People don't buy books about how to use computers anymore. They need to know something, they go online, they Google it. I Google it. So I did some video courses for a while for lynda.com, which is now LinkedIn Learning. Some of those courses are still alive. I'm still getting royalties from them, but they will be phased out as fewer and fewer people use that software that I wrote about. So thanks for asking. If you go to my personal website, marialanger.com, and you click, I think there's a link called my work or something, and then a menu pops out. You can find a list of all the books I've written and also all the articles I've written. There's links to a lot of those articles. I wrote originally about computers, and now I write more about aviation, but I don't do much writing lately, for whatever reason. Okay, let's see. Ramon asks, loves my channel, thank you. Were you already a pilot while you were an author? No, I became an author first, made money to learn how to fly. Unlike a lot of other folks, I learned to fly, I paid as I went. I didn't pay in advance, I didn't take out a loan, I paid as I went, but I also didn't take lessons full time. It took me a year and a half to get my private certificate, and that's because I would go down there. It was a 90-mile drive to the flight school, first of all. I would go down there once or twice a week. Sometimes I'd skip weeks. I skipped a whole summer because it was Phoenix, and who wants to fly when it's 110 out? And it took me a year and a half. That's not the best way to learn, but if you could pay as you go, that's a really good way to learn. Because when you finish your certificate, you don't want to be sitting on this giant loan. So try to pay as much as you can. Some schools will give you a discount if you pay for blocks of flight time in advance. And that's what my school did. It gave me, gosh, I think it was 10% off if I bought 10 hours at a time. So that's what I would do. So let's see. I love you channel. Okay, we did that one. Have you mentioned this? Aileron asks. Hi, Aileron is another channel member. Thank you. You have mentioned this, but what is your flight schedule through the winter? Are you getting the engine overhaul? I actually mentioned this at the beginning, and the short version is no, I'm not getting it overhauled this year. The helicopter's been put away. The plan is to get another cherry season out of it and then get it overhauled. It has 86 hours left until overhaul, and that should take me through another cherry season with a couple of flights for videos. So, but not a lot. And that's if the engine doesn't start making metal or doing, if I start having problems, then that whole game plan changes. Okay, let's see now. Wait. schedule 3. All right, we did that one. Ramon says his wife knows me from Peach Pit and was excited to see me. Who is your wife? I don't recognize your last name, so that would be interesting to know. John wants to know, how did I find the helicopter after its service? If you're talking about my service down in McMinnville, it was fine. Somebody else asked me somewhere, did I have that carbon monoxide light checked? I don't think I specifically mentioned it to them, but they did make a repair on the muffler. Normally when the carbon monoxide light goes on, it's because exhaust is getting into the cabin. And on this particular helicopter, I'm thinking either the sensor is really sensitive or the, my dogs are distracting me. Stop it. Go away, go away. Go, go. Or when I'm sitting on the ground, maybe there's a slight exhaust leak outside that's getting in the cabin, because it doesn't do it when I'm in flight. It only does it when I'm on the ground. They repaired a piece of the muffler, and I thought that would fix it, but since then I've had the problem again. So it's either the sensor or there's another problem. Again, it doesn't happen in flight. It might go on while I'm sitting there and take a few minutes for the light to go out, but the light does not come on in flight. So I'm not really worried about it. I've got good ventilation in there and whatever. So other than that, the helicopter flies fine. I think it flies a little faster. Let's see. Let me see. I'm trying to get how to find. Okay, Brent wants to know, how do people get into cherry drying? He says, I'm just about wrapping up my commercial rating and don't really have an interest in being a CFI to build time. Cherry drying is not a time building activity. Last year I flew, somebody just asked me how much I flew for cherry drying last year. I think I flew 21 hours in the whole season. It just doesn't rain here. I know this is Washington, and I know everybody thinks Seattle, it's green, it rains all the time. This isn't Seattle. This is the desert side of the state. That's where the cherries grow, and it does not rain here a lot. The most I ever flew in a season, I don't even think it was 50 hours. The best way to build time, unless you're rich and you can buy or rent a helicopter all the time, is to be a CFI. And I know nobody wants to hear that, but it is the best way. Plus, I do have to add this, you will have a better chance of getting a job if you are a CFI, because some jobs are like, maybe they need a tour pilot, but they want to also be able to do flight training or demo flights, so they want CFIs. There's a lot of jobs that I can't qualify because I'm not a CFI, even tour jobs. You know, and answer your question, how do you get into it? The best way is to work for a flight school, probably as a CFI, that sends pilots up here for cherry drying. And I shouldn't just say up here, because they do some of it in California too, but that's an earlier season. So find out which, you know, if your flight school sends somebody, and if your flight school's near Washington State, you can always suggest that they give me a call. Every year I'm usually looking for about 5 helicopters to work with me, and every year people say, oh, I'm coming back next year, and then they're hard to get, whatever. So I'm always looking for pilots, and usually the flight schools will send a pilot. I do require my pilots to have 500 hours in helicopters and at least 100 hours in the R-44, because yes, it's just hovering, but we're flying in difficult conditions sometimes, and I just don't want anybody to crash. So hopefully that helps you out a little bit. Hello to everybody saying hello back, and and also to the computer nerds. Okay, Love Ballon wants to know, how do I finance my helicopter flight training? Some flight schools have what is the word I'm looking for? Relationships with local banks, and they can get you funding. Man, I really caution folks against paying, you know, $70,000, $80,000 up front to supposedly get your whole certificate. Flight schools go out of business. Flight schools in the past have made promises that they don't keep. I don't know if anybody here has heard of Silver State. They went out of business a while ago, but it was quite a debacle. There's a lot of people that were still hurting from that. My advice is to try to save up as much as you can and try to finance as little as possible. And I know that's not easy for folks, and I get it. It's just that I hear stories about people getting their pilot certificates and not being able to get jobs, especially right now. I mean, if you just graduated, 6 months ago, you're pretty much screwed for a while. There's lots of pilots that are out of work, and it's sad. Ahmed says, I'm brave to fly a UE. I don't think I was that brave. I had an experienced pilot next to me. He's talking about one of my videos. Maria flies a UE helicopter is what it's called. And I was in a terrible seating position, and the video was bad, and I would love an opportunity to do that again and make a better video, but it's out there. It's pretty good. Okay. Lemtrix, I hope I'm saying that right, says he is doing ATPLH now. I guess that's is that a UK or a EU certificate? I assume that H is helicopter. I just started. Do I have any advice on how to get the first job? That's going to be the hardest thing, I assume, and yes, it is the hardest thing. Again, you want to build time. 500 to 1,000 hours is the normal requirements here in the U.S., and then get an entry-level job. Chances are you're going to work as a flight instructor first, and chances are that job will be with your flight school. So while you're doing your training, behave yourself, be a nice guy, show that you're a good person, that you've got skills to teach, that you've got interpersonal skills and all that. Because if you screw up while you're in your flight school, they're not going to give you a job as a CFI. So, and that's usually the way people build time. Again, if you have a lot of money, the way I did it is I had money. I bought a helicopter. I bought an R-22, and I just flew it. I mean, I flew it all the time. 200 hours a year I was flying that thing. And, builds time that way. But not everybody can do that. Most people can't. Let's see. Okay, Jack, I never wrote a dummy book. I just want to point that out. He says he owns every dummy book made. I never wrote a dummy book. They wanted me to write one. I said, I'll write it, but not if I put my name on it. They said, no, you have to put your name on it. I said, I'm not going to write it. So a cherry season about 80-ish hours of flying. No, a cherry season is about, anywhere from, and I'm not exaggerating, anywhere from 0 to maybe 40 hours of flying. Seriously, it's not that much flying. It's just not, it's not a time building job. I've written blog posts about this. I get calls from guys, I want to fly for you. You don't have to pay me, I'll fly. I just want to build time. And I'm like, cherry drying is not going to do it for you. So it's just not the right job. Jason B, hello, Jason B is another channel member. Thank you for being a channel member and for coming by. Do I know anything about in-home flight simulators for helicopters? And I don't. Sorry, no opinions. I do have to say that I have flown flight simulators before, including one in a flight school. I cannot do it because the sight picture just is not realistic enough for me. And every time I come into land, I crash. Whatever. So I'm sure there's some good ones out there. Microsoft, I heard, has a brand new flight simulator out. You might look into that. And if you can get it, there's special controls that will more closely simulate helicopter controls. But again, I don't really know anything about it except that it exists. Hello, Moses Lake, Blackjack. Hello, everybody. Everybody's saying hello. Hello. What's the hardest part about flying a helicopter? Let me see. I am Wee Johnny is asking, what is the hardest part of flying a helicopter? A friend many years ago found he needed to better his maths. Thanks. Okay, so the hardest part of flying a helicopter is learning to hover. And the reason is that the cyclic control is extremely sensitive and you will over control immediately. Also, when you change one control, you have to change the others. There are 4 controls. If the helicopter, and I have videos about the controls, so go back and look through for them. But the hardest, there's the cyclic, which is super sensitive, that controls your direction. That's in my right hand when I'm flying. There's the collective, which controls the power setting and the tilt of the rotor blades. Actually, it controls the tilt of the rotor blades only, but it is tied to the throttle with the use of a governor, and the governor controls the power setting. the governor's usually handling that for you. So even though there's 4 controls, you really only have to worry about 3 of them. And then the other control is the pedals. So when you're in a hover, just kind of being there in a hover, you have to make minute adjustments to every single control while you're just staying in one place. And everyone says, oh, you just put them all in a neutral position and you just stay. And no, that's not the way it works, unfortunately. And it takes the average person 5 to 10 hours of practice to learn to hover. And once you learn how to hover, then you can pretty much do everything else. I mean, you'll need practice, but you can, that's the hardest thing, is learning to hover. So let's see. Okay, Glenn says that some flight schools here, and I don't know where here is, try to keep your logbook at the school, but you could request them not to. Yeah, keep possession of your logbook. Do not allow someone else to keep your logbook. Honestly, whoever does that, that should send up red flags. If they're keeping your logbook, they're holding your logbook hostage to get you to come back. That should send up super red flags. Do not go to any flight school that does that. I don't know any flight school that does that. Of course, it's been a while since I had flight training, but don't let them do that. If Fado wants to be a commercial airline pilot and he doesn't know where to start, get flight training. And other than that, I don't really know where to start. You need to learn how to fly before you can become a pilot. Microsoft Flight Simulator, Glenn says it doesn't have helicopters. I know it used to have helicopters, but that was a really long time ago that I looked at it. Gosh, it's got to be at least, I would say 15 years ago. It had a Jet Ranger, I know, and I crashed it. Anyway, everybody says hello. And from South Africa, that's quite a ways away. Paul G says the hardest part about flying a helicopter is paying the bill. You are right. That I stand corrected. The hardest part is definitely paying the bill. Gabriel wants to know if I've done any searches, like trying to find a lost hiker or anything like that. I have looked for hikers. I have looked for illegal, or I shouldn't say that word because I get in trouble. People who have come into the U.S., crossing the Mexican border without paperwork. I looked for a lost one of those. We did not find him. He probably was dead out there in the desert. He was sick and was left behind by his group, and his wife was going crazy, and we didn't find him. It was very sad. I have looked for lost dogs. I have looked for lost trucks. I have looked for stuff. I'm trying to remember if we ever found anything. I don't remember finding anything that was lost. Oh, cows. I looked for cows. We found those. They were bulls, actually, we were looking for. We were looking for 4 bulls. I was with some literally cowboys on board. And we were looking for their 4 bulls that had lost. 3 of them were together, and we found them. The 4th one, who was injured, we didn't find him. He probably died out there somewhere. But other than that, we don't find him. It's not easy to find stuff out from a helicopter. Especially if it's an injured animal, they'll be hiding under a bush or something like that for shade. If it's in the forest, obviously you're not going to find something. It's not easy to find stuff. And the areas that we're covering are huge, so we don't find stuff. Simon wants to know, how do you cope with the dead man's curve when you're drying the trees? Basically, you ignore the dead man's curve. The dead man's curve is not some sort of, first of all, what the dead man's curve is, the real term for it is the height velocity diagram. And I have written a blog post about this, and if I remember, I'll try to put a link to it in my the description for this video. Otherwise, if you go to marialanger.com, that's my blog, and you search for dead man, it should come up as one of the blog posts. The height velocity diagram is created for every single helicopter model, and it's different for every helicopter model, but it is very similar. The exact numbers are different, but it's very similar. And basically, it tells you what altitude and speed combinations are safe if you have an engine failure. So basically, they're saying if you're really close to the ground, when I say really close to the ground, it's like under 10 feet, then you should be able to safely do an auto rotation at pretty much any speed. If you are really high up and you're going slow, you should be able to do an auto rotation. But there's this area, this shaded area, where if you are flying at like say 50 feet at 50 knots, or 50 feet at 30 knots, whatever, chances of you having a safe auto rotation in the event of an engine failure is very unlikely. So when I'm flying, I got two dogs in my lap again. When I'm flying a helicopter over cherry trees, I'm about 20 feet up, maybe, and I am going really slow, like 5 knots. So I am in the shaded area of the height velocity diagram, meaning if I have an engine failure, the chances of me being able to do an auto rotation, safe auto rotation to the ground are nil. It's not going to happen. So I'm in the dead man's curve. Ooh. And people think that this is a scary thing. People think that it is an illegal thing. It's not illegal at all. And it's not very scary. It all has to do with whether I'm going to have an engine failure. And the reality is that engine failures are very uncommon in Robinson helicopters. So I do not spend all my time worrying about having an engine failure. When I'm drying cherries, I'm more concerned with hitting something with my tail rotor, dipping too low into the trees, getting too close to a wind machine and hitting it with my main rotor blades, which 2 pilots who have flown for me have done. One of them crashed and totaled the helicopter. The other one, we still don't know how he flew away from that. I don't think, so that's how I cope with it. I cope with it by not thinking about it. So that's the height velocity diagram. Let's see. Okay. Love Balin is trying to save money for flight school. What factors do I need to be cautious about when dealing with money? My advice, and I know this is not popular with flight schools these days, is don't pay for everything up front. Try to do your certificates on a pay-as-you-go. Try not to borrow too much money. It'll take longer, but if you can walk away if you can have your certificates without owing, $60,000-$70,000 for them, and maybe not being able to get a job, that's the best thing. That's the only thing I can say about that. Let's see. Ahmed wants to know TBar or standard Cyclic. Which one do I think is better? It's really, the TBar is Robinson's design. What he's referring to, and you can see it in my videos, is that the stick comes up from the middle between the 2 seats, and then there's a bar that goes across, and I hold the Cyclic handle in my right hand. Robinson designed it this way to make it lighter and cheaper. Rather than putting in 2 Cyclic sticks, one for each front seat, they've got this bar with a teeter-totter. Now, you never see it. If you watch my auto rotation video, actually you'll see it, because I was with a CFI, and we had the dual controls in. If I'm flying, then that T-bar goes up, and it comes down into a handle for the CFI, or the person sitting next to me. And then if that person's flying, he pulls it down, and mine comes up, and then he's flying, in his seat. People think that it feels different, but I've flown, like I used to fly an R-22 every day, and then I would fly to the Grand Canyon, where I was flying long ranges, which had a regular standard Cyclic between your legs. And I went from one to the other, and it feels the same. It looks different, you think it would be different, but in all honesty, when you're actually flying with it in your hand, it doesn't feel different. So I have no opinion on it, really. It's easier to get into the helicopter without there being a Cyclic between your legs, because you don't have to climb in around it. But other than that, it doesn't really matter to me. Good morning, Roy. Hey, Roy. Roy is another, in fact, I mentioned Roy earlier. Roy, I mentioned you at the beginning of this. Roy is another channel member, so. Let's see. John wants to know the significance of the fixed-wing airplane behind me. This is just a picture I took when I was up in Alaska in 2008. It actually does have some helicopter-related significance. I went up there for a job interview. I actually had 2 job interviews while I was up there. And one of the job interviews was at Girdwood Airport. And while I was at Girdwood, this airplane was parked there, and you can't really see it. I'll try to show you at the end of the video. It was parked there with snow-covered mountains all around, just absolutely gorgeous. And I had a job interview, this is 2008, and I got the job, but I did not take it. The reason I didn't take it was I was really worried about having to fly or be available like 20 hours a day. In the summertime, it doesn't get dark there. It's very weird. It's near Anchorage. And I just didn't want to be doing tours at, you know, midnight. And the money was not, it wasn't bad, but when I looked at all my living expenses for the summer, it was going to be not enough to really attract me to go up there. And coincidentally, I did start cherry drying that summer, so I moved into cherry drying instead. So that's significant of that plane. And I went back to Girdwood a couple of years back, and I was with a friend. We visited another friend in a maintenance hangar, and that airplane was sitting in the maintenance hangar getting its annual, so it was partially deconstructed. It's a really pretty plane, and the scene was really pretty. So that's my story about that plane. I just like the picture. So my desk used to be in this area. My office used to be over here, and I've since moved it up to my loft and put this chair here, which I never sit in. I know my dogs like it though. Let's see now. I missed part of a question here. Someone says I meant either college or pilot school. This goes back to the other question about getting started. I don't think it makes a difference, in all honesty. Glenn wants to know what's the glide ratio of your R-44 if you have to do a forced landing. It's a 4-to-1 glide ratio if I do everything right. Meaning, let's see, 4 forward with 1 down. The R-44 actually has a really nice auto rotation. And if you've seen the auto rotation practice video that I did, it's kind of long, but I think I do 4 or 5 of each type of auto rotation in there, including one that I screw up. I mean, I put them all in, the whole flight in. And you could see how it glides. It glides really well. It looks pretty scary. The 180 autos always look scary because you have to really, when you make that turn, you're almost diving. But let's see. Have I done any aerial mapping? Paul wants to know if I've done any aerial mapping. And the answer to that is no. I've done some survey work, but not mapping with any equipment on the aircraft. That would be a neat gig to have if I could get that equipment on there. But no, I haven't done any of that. Am I interested? Simon wants to know if I'm interested in fixed wing aircraft, and the answer is no, I'm not. I am interested in seaplanes, though. I'm also interested in gyros. I soloed in a gyro a couple of years back, open cockpit. It was a lot of fun. And there's a video about that too. If you go back and you look, the quality of the video wasn't very good because of the vibration. This is an older GoPro, so there's a little bit of vibration. I'd love to be able to do that again. But no, I'm not really interested in airplanes in general. Let's see. Gabriel says he spotted moonshine stills from the air. That's pretty cool. There used to be, before pot was legalized in this state, there used to be a lot of pot farms hidden up in the forest, and the sheriff's office used to go up and search for them every year, and they used to lease a helicopter to do it. And unfortunately, they never leased it from me, but that would have been pretty good. Let's see. Do you have to do, this is a funny question. Glenn wants to know, do you have to do any low-level flying endorsement to flow low? Here in Australia, it's a requirement under 500 feet. That is really interesting, Glenn. And the answer is no, we don't. And there's the other interesting thing is that helicopters have no specific minimum flight altitude. So if I wanted to go flying across the desert at 100 feet, I could do it, and I have. I try not to, though, because if you don't know where all the wires are and the poles and stuff, it could get really dangerous. We try to stick to at least 300 feet. Cherry drying, obviously, is a lot lower, and often when I'm flying from one cherry orchard to another, and they're close, I won't climb way high, especially if I know the area and I know there's no obstacles. That's very interesting that you have a low-level flying endorsement. If you know the details of that, like what they require, please share them. I'm very interested. I would love to go fly in Australia because, well, it depends on what goes on next week. We'll leave it at that. What do I, Love wants to know, Love Balin, Balin, sorry if I got it wrong. What do I enjoy most about flying? I like exploring, I really do. I don't do it that much now as when I was a writer and I had more excess cash. Now, especially with the helicopter getting close to overhaul, I very seldom fly unless somebody's paying me to fly. I like to explore areas. I like to go up and I like to go places. When I had the R22, which was a lot cheaper to fly, not as comfortable though, for sure, I would go on trips with it. I would take it and I went up from Arizona, I went up to the Rocky Mountains, Eagle, Colorado, rented a car, went to visit a friend, landed at some other place, pulled out my tent, pitched my tent nearby. Doing stuff like that I really, really enjoy doing, and just covering a lot of different terrain. I like doing cross-country flights in good weather. I'm not really thrilled about doing the same cross-country flights over and over. Now it seems to be between here and McMinnville or here and Hillsboro. I used to fly between here and Wickenburg, Arizona, where I lived for a lot of years, a lot of times, all different routes. I've had some amazing flights up the California coast when the weather is good, just flying along the coast, seeing waterfalls coming over cliffs, there's nobody there. I'm just seeing the whole thing for myself, and it's pretty amazing. And I miss that. I miss being able to do that. I wish, I wish that financially I could afford to just fly it like I used to, but, whatever. I'm not complaining. I have a good life and I'm satisfied, but it would be nice to be able to do more. So Roy wants to know, do you have to drain the fuel when the helicopter is stored for off-season? No, I don't. The helicopter fuel uses 100 low lead, which is 100 octane leaded fuel, supposedly low lead, but you don't want to put it in your car with a catalytic converter, and it's extremely stable. In fact, I have a portable tank that I use during cherry season, and whatever's left over in that, I will put it into my ATV and my lawnmowers and whatever I've got, because it's stable and I don't have to worry about it over the winter. So that's a good thing, that I don't have to. Let's see. Glenn says he misses friends in Washington State, that you lived there for 5 years. That's cool. I would love to. I was supposed to go to Australia back in 2012. Unfortunately, my future ex-husband, who became my ex-husband that year, forced me to change my plans, and I would like to someday get down there, but I suspect that if I go down there, I'm going to want to stay. And Paul G says the R44 and Bell 206 have similar blade inertia, and that's true. They do. The Jet Ranger and the R44 are extremely similar in their flight characteristics, speeds, and whatnot. They're very, very similar. Simon wants to know, do I suffer much with card icing in my area? I'm thinking card icing might have been, sorry, there it says carb icing, the next thing, sorry, Simon. Carb icing, okay. My helicopter has fuel injection, so carb ice is not an issue. It's a Raven 2. A Raven 1 would have an issue with carburetor ice because of the fact that it's carbureted, not injected. And I fortunately have never had to deal with that in a R44. My R22 was not injected, and it had carburetor heat. I lived in Arizona though, so the chances of having carb ice were really, really slim. If you have a choice between buying or flying a Raven 1 versus a Raven 2 and you're not familiar with carb heat, carb ice, go with the Raven 2. Then you don't have to worry about it. And Paul G actually points that out a few comments later. And no, ice does not still form on the inlet. Nope, it's good. It's all good. Fernando wants to know how long it takes to dry a cherry orchard. It depends, of course, on the size of the orchard. I generally shoot for 30 to 50 acres an hour. Usually comes out be closer to 30 than 50. It really depends on so many things. It depends on how wet the trees are, how big the trees are, how densely the trees are planted together, how thick the trees are, how big they are, how many, how well they're pruned versus, so there's a whole bunch of things playing into this. If you've got young trees that are small and they're planted pretty close together, you could go up every third row. But normally on denser trees, I go up every other row. So now if you're going up every third row, obviously you're going to cover more trees in a faster time. And also you could fly faster if you've got less rain. And so it really, really depends. But that's the rule of thumb. We shoot for 30 to 50 per acre with an R44. Now a UE, which would be a lot higher, has a lot more downwash. I could cover maybe 3 rows at a pass. Well, a UE can maybe cover 10. So he's going to do it a lot faster. So again, it has to do with a lot of different factors. Simon wants to know, do I get scared in turbulence from mass bumping point of view? And it did look pretty rough. It was pretty rough. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to slow down in turbulence, which I did. I slowed down to airspeed 90 knots or lower, even slower, whatever. But I mean, I really did want to get where I was going. I don't worry about it. In all honesty, I don't worry about it. I just, the worse the turbulence gets, the slower I go. And if you slow down, it should not be an issue. Glenn says that there's a 5-hour endorsement for flying below 500 feet in Australia, which is interesting. But I guess 5 hours of doing that. I mean, I would qualify for sure. Do I have any reason to use Prist? Paul G says no. That's for jet fuel. No, I'm pretty sure Prist is just for jet fuel, and it's got to do with icing in the fuel. So I don't know. Lawrence Smith asks a good question, and this is a good question to end up on. So no more questions, guys. This is the last one. Lawrence wants to know, what's the 10-year plan dream? In all honesty, I consider myself, what is the word I'm looking for? Semi-retired. I consider myself semi-retired right now. I will tell you right now, I'm 59 years old, which is not old, but it's not young. In order to fly the helicopter after its overhaul and make, and without going broke, I would have to be full-time into hustling to find more customers and all that. In other words, not be semi-retired anymore. And I like being semi-retired. I like it to be stress-free. Right now, the helicopter is in the hangar. I took it off of most of the insurance. Obviously, it's insured in case a tornado blows the hangar away. But it's not insured for flying it. I cannot fly it right now unless I want to risk, crashing it without insurance. And that's saving me a ton of money. And it's like a lot of stress is removed. So I like that. I love to fly. I'd like to continue to fly, doing cherry drying, doing occasional flights. But I cannot see building my business any bigger than it is. I certainly can't see buying another helicopter, new or otherwise, unless I win the lottery. Or this channel should miraculously get, 10,000 members. That would be kind of sweet, but it ain't gonna happen. So I'm just, cruising along and doing what I do. I would like to buy a boat. Basically, I'd like to buy a boat and be able to go boating when I'm not drying cherries. So that's my plan. Sorry, it's not more exciting. I don't really plan on building the business at all. Anyway, it is 5 to 10 on the clock. I promise to keep this under an hour. I really appreciate everybody checking in. I really appreciate your comments. I appreciate you all saying hello. I know I didn't respond to every single comment. I tried just to answer the questions. I encourage you to, anytime I mention that there's a video about it, I encourage you to go into the list of videos for the channel. You could search that list and with some keywords and hopefully find videos that talk about the topics that interest you. The ones that I think are the most interesting are the auto rotation practice is interesting. Cherry drying is interesting for one or two of them. The one I did this year where I did 2 full orchards, it's kind of a long one, it's 45 minutes, but I do a lot of talking about cherry drying while I'm doing it, and I make fun of one of my clients, and one of my other clients saw that and it teases him now. And what else? Gosh, a lot of the scenery ones. I'm gonna try to take the rest of the footage I accumulated this summer, make it into videos to bring us into December, and then while I'm away, I'm gonna hopefully fly some an R44 in the Phoenix area. Again, I will, if there are any opportunities for what I'm gonna call flight sponsorship, I will post them in the community section. And I'm not opposed to doing it on places along the way, going down there or coming back. Although on the way down, I'm probably gonna just hustle to get down to Arizona. On the way back, I might come through Vegas. If anybody lives in that area, there's a slight chance I might find myself in the San Diego area, maybe, or the Los Angeles area. And if so, again, if I can find a flight school or a tour company that's willing to let me put a ton of cameras on the helicopter, you know, I'll go for a flight and look for sponsors for that too. The renting a helicopter is, I got a good deal through my friend. It's $5.50 an hour. I'm hoping that includes fuel. That's a good deal because our 44s to rent are usually 600 plus an hour. So I've got a budget on what I can do this year. So I would love to take it all the way up to Page. There's nothing I'd love more than taking it up to Page from Phoenix, but that's 2 hours each way. That's a ton of money. So I will make it up to Sedona, and I will definitely do the Salt River, and I'll think of some other places within the Phoenix area that might be interesting to go do. Maybe up the Verde River up to the ruins up there. That would be kind of interesting too. So again, thanks a lot for watching, for participating. I'll try to read the comments later on, the ones that I missed, and you can also post comments in this video when it gets saved and put on YouTube, and I'll try to respond to whatever is in there too. Again, consider being a channel member. Help me out a little bit, and if you've got any suggestions for stuff that you want to see, let me know that too. And thanks very much. I've got 2 dogs on my lap, both asleep, which is kind of good. And take care, everybody. Stay safe from that virus. It's real. Stay safe. Take care. Bye.